I applied to Cambridge Muslim College because I was looking for a program where I could understand the sciences needed in order to interpret and follow the guidance of the Quran. I wanted a program which was contextual, which allowed me to understand my religion in the British context. And I was looking for somewhere where the thought was deep and went to the first principles of things. I found studying at Cambridge Muslim College the most intellectually challenging and fulfilling experience that I've ever had. I've found it also to be spiritually uplifting in a way that I hadn't anticipated to find in the British and domestic context. And I feel being at Cambridge Muslim College has allowed me to be part of a community which has at its centre knowledge, which is truly something special. Previously to studying at Cambridge Muslim College, I had studied abroad in a more traditional setting, and I'd also studied at university for a number of years. And I found that at Cambridge Muslim College, I was able to really experience the best of both of those worlds. So here we study subjects from their first principles, and really what the teachers are trying to give us are frameworks in which to understand subjects which would be traditionally studied from a single text or a single tradition. Here we understand what binds together traditions, how to really go deeply into texts and extract not just the meaning of the words, but the very thought process of the author himself or herself. And in comparison to a more traditional setting, I found that the spirituality has not been lost at all. The deep passion and emotive feeling that is really stirred up by understanding that those who wrote these texts were incredibly pious individuals, it really comes out in the way in which we study and the way in which the teachers deliver these texts to us. The teachers here are dual trained, which means that they have both a traditional education, having studied for decades abroad under some of the greatest scholars of our time, and also have academic qualifications from the best universities and institutions in Western academia. And what they really bring, which I think is different to somebody who's only from one of those traditions, is being loyal to the tradition and being deeply immersed in the requisite knowledge that is needed to engage with subjects like fiqh or kalam at their deepest levels, while not being afraid to engage with some of the most pressing questions and challenges of our time coming from the Western Academy. And so we learn how to reconcile and to really locate our religion in the modern world and in the Western context, while engaging with our teachers who always teach us to think deeper, to ask questions. And our education doesn't stop in the classroom, but our teachers really continue to speak to us about these over lunch or over coffee, and in that way our education becomes a holistic experience which doesn't just remain within the books and whenever the class times are to begin or end. I think for me, I've never been around a more intelligent, thoughtful, passionate group of people who are really trying to understand Islam in the modern day while being truly loyal to the tradition, and who are genuinely and sincerely trying to be the representatives of the Prophet ﷺ. And to that end, I've learnt just as much from my co-students that I have from my teachers or from the books. In fact, with the students who have a particular talent or a skill set, we exchange our knowledge outside of class. So for example, One of my classmates is teaching a course in Western philosophy, and another one of my students is helping me with my Arabic grammar. Along with that, as challenges arise on the course, as they inevitably do for students of knowledge, we all band together and help each other and ensure that nobody gets left behind. And I've really learnt, if anything, from the manners and the character of my fellow students. One of the things that we experience at the college is that knowledge is not a dry, stuffy, dead object that you take from the book and you place in your mind. It's an embodied thing. It's really a light that comes from Allah, and that light infuses us and the whole world. And to that end, we've engaged in Sunnah sports. So we have an archery teacher who comes, and he teaches us in a way in which we're not just shooting arrows at a target like you would at a practice range, but we're really learning how this particular sport, how the idea of precision and presence when you release the arrow is really something that is cultivating inside you as a human being, how to imbibe and how to interact with your knowledge. We've had development sessions with our principal, which have gone from talking about things which seem mundane, such as washing the dishes, to understanding the very depths of the human soul and understanding how there isn't a disconnect in Islam between how we live our lives in the day-to-day and how we have spiritual experiences or become better people. We've had coffee making workshops where we've learnt the deeply Islamically rooted origins of coffee and how ihsan can really be put into any activity or any craft that the Muslim puts his mind to. And so thanks to these extracurricular activities, my conception of knowledge has really expanded and become much richer while I've been here. The fact that Cambridge is a university city means that as Cambridge Muslim College students, we get to engage with some of the events that take place. So we are always included in invites to events taking place at the Faculty of Divinity, at the Center of Asian and Middle Eastern Studies. We get access to the library, which houses millions of books, which you'll only find here. We are able to engage with the Cambridge University students, which makes for having a rich discussion and actually challenging us as students of Islamic Studies who push ourselves to be able to articulate the ideas which we're imbibing here to do with tradition and being loyal to traditional texts and sources, and understand how challenges to those ideas can be met with clear communication. At the same time, you have a different pace of life and a different way of living here, which is much more in touch with nature. There's a lot more green space here, which means that when we're not studying, we can unwind and relax in a way which is quite wholesome, which I find to be unique to being in Cambridge. What I found in Islamic Studies is that sometimes there's a tendency to remain in your bubble, whereby you're studying a particular text or you're having discussions about topics which are so rich and connected to something that you really care about, that there's a tendency to just see the world through that lens. But being here in Cambridge, we get to engage with the university students, and they come with their own education and their own set of ideas. And so when we interact, we're forced and really disciplined to be able to articulate our ideas and what we're learning in such a way which we are able to represent the tradition to somebody who doesn't come from the same positionality. And I found that to be a very enriching experience. Another thing about being in Cambridge is that we have the Cambridge Central Mosque, which is one of my biggest highlights of being here. So during Ramadan, I saw thousands of worshippers coming to the mosque, which was quite a spectacle to behold. And for one of the first times in the UK, really feeling as if there's an indigenous Muslim community which can gather and grow and continue to go from strength to strength. During the past 2 years that I've been at the college, I've really had the opportunity to think through what comes next in a way which has brought together all of my different interests. And so after the course, I'd really like to serve my community in some capacity, whether that means teaching or leading some of the communal services in my local mosque, or being there for people who have come from a similar background to me, who may not have gone through a madrasa education from a young age, but who are genuinely interested in learning about their religion, and especially working with young people. My interests have been in the arts, in particular performing arts, and being here at the college has really given me a way to understand what the role of art is in the modern world and in relation to an Islamic worldview. And so I really believe that now I have the tools with which to go about following my passion in a way which preserves my religion and make sure that I'm doing something that I believe in and I'm passionate about, but while embodying what I believe to be the prophetic character and being a representative of knowledge. I would say if you're thinking of applying to the BA at Cambridge Muslim College, if you're a curious individual who wants to find the truth, if you're prepared to be challenged but rewarded with the tools, the frameworks, the understanding to be able to ground your beliefs and live your life as a Muslim in an informed and directed and guided way, then apply. You won't regret it.